Hi everyone, it's Stefania here from Rise Above Your Limits. I work as an empowerment coach, and today I'm so excited because I'm going to tell you an amazing experience I had to enjoy in my life. Well, it wasn't that enjoyable when I was going through. It's the story of how I came to graduate in anthropological sciences at my Italian university in Bologna, and how challenging the path together was, to the point that I was so ready to give up, and I so believed that it was impossible. Before I start telling my story, let me tell you what kind of benefits, what kind of learnings and lessons you will get from watching this video. The first benefit will be to understand that there is a power within yourself, a sense of who you are, your truth, your internal power, your authenticity that is always available beyond all negative emotions that you may feel in the moment while accomplishing an important dream of yours, and how to access it despite the high state of emotional distress that you may feel in the moment. This video will teach you how to switch off these negative emotions, how to get through the pain and still access that power that makes you persist, makes you getting through every challenge, just because you want to accomplish your dream and you know your why. You know why that goal, the dream of yours, can actualize even more who you are on this earth. You will also learn through this video how to get reliable on yourself, how to rely on your internal skills, capabilities, and strength and determination, despite the odds that can sometimes be in front of you. Learning how to be reliable, it means that every time a problem surfaces in your life, even if it's not just a dream of yours, but just an everyday problem, you have the resources in your life. You only need to understand a little bit more how our attention, in case our system is flooded with negative emotions like anger, frustration, or anxiety, our attention tends to receive glimpses from our reality according to the beliefs and the internal emotions that we feel in the moment while we are observing our reality. So until we don't change the vibration of those emotions, of course, we will be victims of the odds in front of us, and we won't be able to accomplish our dreams. But with my story, I hope to shed some light on our really infinite potential and capabilities that we have inside, and how in the course of less than 24 hours, I changed the destiny of a situation that from the outside looked pretty impossible to change, or that I could make it in the end. And of course, this is not just to say, that every experience I have in my life, it is super easy, or I can change the course of an event in less than 24 hours. But that thing happened in my life, and I just want to tell you my honest story so that you can get that inspiration that if I made it, you have the same internal structure and building to make it happen as well. So let me start, because as I said at the beginning, I'm really excited and I'm really happy to share my story with you. It was 10 years ago. I'm now based in the UK, in London. And 10 years ago, I landed in the UK to work with my brother in a business that he had just started at the time in hospitality. So because at the time I was studying at my Italian university, I decided to carry on with my studies. And when Christmas time came, can you imagine in hospitality in the UK how busy that period can be for that kind of business? So me and my brother were forced to work. And when Christmas time came, it was exactly the moment where all my exams were done, and it was time to get in touch with my Italian professor to start the dissertation, as I had to deliver my piece of writing by February, and then the graduation will occur in March. So the timing was really, really tight. And when it came that I contacted my professor, very last minute, by the way, Of course, because the odds were supposed to come my way, my professor wasn't around. She wouldn't have been around for the following 6 months. So I'm not here to swear, but can you imagine my kind of internal dialogue when I realized that, again, my bad time management was bringing my dream, my biggest dream, to the end, basically, because from that perspective, it looked pretty impossible that I could graduate in the end. So in that moment, I was in a state of deep anxiety, high depressive thoughts, stress. I was absolutely acting in that precise snapshot out of desperation. So what I did was contacting straight away another professor. I remembered I had an exam with her, and her reply was absolutely, frustrating. She told me, well, it's Christmas time. It's quite impossible that we can find another topic for you. There's not enough time for you to start a dissertation right here, right now. And plus, from the UK, it looks like all the odds are in our way. So my answer for you is no. The time when I went to bed after my shift at the pub, where at the time I was working with my brother, I was feeling really exhausted. But let me tell you what was also the important factor, that despite the no I received, despite the knowing that my actual professor wasn't around, and I've already, by the way, agreed the topic with her, what really made me persist is that because I was doing a job that I absolutely loved it. I mean, life at the pub was really thrilling. A lot of, people to get to know their stories. So I really appreciated the human environment I was involved, but that wasn't my path, and I knew it. Working at the pub with my brother wasn't matching my highest values. And right because of that, I knew that my studying was planting the seeds for me to become who I am today. I didn't know at the time that I wanted to become an empowerment coach, but I knew that by studying anthropological sciences, everything that revolved around humanity, beliefs, behaviors, understanding how different cultures can respond to life differently, made my heart sing and my soul dance. So giving up on that dream, it meant almost like giving up a part of myself. So that night when I went to bed, I had to deal with all the pain that these negative emotions was bringing into my body. I was feeling terribly sad, terribly guilty with myself, because for the previous 6 months, I had been studying in Italian while working in English. And I've been studying really hard back and forth from the UK to Italy to give my exams. And now everything seems to be impossible to achieve. Now it was too late. And of course, it was my fault. So I went to bed with two voices in my heart and my head. One voice was the inner self-sabotaging voice that was telling me, well, just give up. Your dream is impossible. And all the anxiety, all the fear, all the guilt were together with this voice and were clouding my mind so much that it felt impossible for me to approach the situation from another perspective. Now, this is the important bit that I've learned in that moment, but I've also learned, through many, many years of personal therapy on myself. When we feel anxiety, when we feel anger, when we feel any kind of distress, our attention is narrowed. We respond with fight or flight behaviors. We attack, we act out of desperation, we are terribly attached to the outcome, and all the chances to make it through in a situation are against us. We cannot make it from that place of being. A negative emotion state our complete powerlessness and helplessness and hopelessness in our reality. So when I messaged the second professor, I was holding on to that kind of powerlessness in my body. I was desperate. I needed a solution, because from that state of being, I couldn't bear the feeling that I basically self-sabotaged my dream. And I self-sabotaged a part of my self-actualization process. So what happened next was that the night, of course, I couldn't sleep. I wasn't a coach at that time. And the only tool I knew, because I studied in my personal free time, was emotional freedom techniques that basically teaches us how to tap on some acupressure points across the body. And its main aim is to reduce the power of negative emotions by at the same time giving voice to them. I know it sounds very paradoxical, but that night I absolutely needed that. I had to voice my anxiety, I had to voice my guilt, I had to voice the anger and the frustration I was feeling against myself. And sometimes the problem is that we want to avoid a problem. In that moment, I couldn't distinguish what the problem was, but I'm also aware that when we feel stress, we think that the problem is on the outside. In that moment, I felt the problem was that the first professor wasn't around, that the second professor said a terrible no for me to graduate with her in less than 2 months. And the problem was that I had to give up on my dream, and my heart, of course, was broken. But in reality, I didn't realize that the problem was how I was interpreting that external situation according to my internal beliefs. And my internal beliefs were creating that deep level of stress, of anxiety, of fear, of guilt that was blocking any highest resource to come in. So long story short, I spent that night tapping on myself. I spent the night awakening all the layers of my pain, acknowledging all the mistakes I've done, but also access that internal voice that was asking me to persist. I accessed that internal whisper that is my authenticity that told me, please don't give up. You have done so much in your studies, and that's your dream. That is your soul there. There is a seed in your studies that will prompt you forward to do something with that, but you can't just give up right now. So I haven't been that spiritual until the very moment, but I prayed the universe and I kept on tapping, breathing through my whole body. And what happened the next morning was kind of magical. And now, of course, it's history in my life's book. I woke up with a renowned sense of who I am. All the stress that I felt the night before seemed to be completely dissipated. And when I sat down in front of the computer, it felt like that by knowing again who I was, by having all my skills back together, it felt like I could access almost like a higher level of consciousness. And from that high level of consciousness, finally, because anxiety, fear, depression, and guilt were over, I could finally access creativity. I could finally access a determination to write an email that I couldn't write a day before. So as I sat down, my instinct told me to message again the same professor that the day before told me, look, it's impossible, just give up. The topic that you have prepared is not relevant to me. It's Christmas time, and also from the UK, is too far and too complicated to start a relationship together to make your graduation possible. So as I was writing to the same professor, I was so into myself, into my story, into the why I wanted graduating so much that I wrote to her all my past year. I said, I've been working and studying from the UK. I'm a really committed student. I'm in my early 30s. So I'm really committed in accomplishing and finish my degree in anthropological sciences. I understand that I've already laid the table with so many odds, but I'm here asking you if there is only one possibility out of 1 million that you could give me a topic that I could accomplish from the UK, and that I could do that under your supervision. Because if there is just one possibility out of 1 million, I'm here to say that I'm gonna take that chance and I'm going to make it happen with my 100% of commitment, willingness, and determination. That was amazing what happened next. She replied straight away to my new mail because the energy I was putting into this email, into my writing, the energy that my being was fueling into my resolve to make it happen was absolutely magical. She replied straight away to my email and she said exactly these words. She said, well, now, if you put it that way, I know of a Scottish anthropologist that nobody has ever translated in Italian yet. So I believe you can maybe purchase this book from Amazon. And despite it's Christmas time, I guess it's better you hurry up and you start writing. And I will follow up with you step by step before the graduation. And that's exactly what happened. A couple of months later, I was in my hometown, Bologna. I was taking a break from the pub where I was working with my brother, and I finally was able to graduate with only 5 points less from the maximum grade I could achieve at my Italian university in Bologna. I graduated in anthropological sciences, and I'm so grateful to that specific path because it taught me so much about our internal power, that despite the odds that can be in front of us, there's always an internal resource that we can access, and that everything that looks like a problem holds also the key for the solution. So now I want to ask you one question. What would have happened if that night when I went to bed, I decided just to give up? What would have happened if I believed my internal beliefs and my internal emotions that were telling me, well, you're just a failure. You again acted last minute and now you get what you deserve. Nothing is going to happen and you just have to give up on your dream. I also forgot to say to you, and that's, but because I'm really spontaneous in my videos now, probably it will also become much clearer to you. I could have renewed my fees in March, but my fees were expiring in March. It was December when I contacted these two professors, and I didn't have the money at the time from the UK to afford another year of fees. So I knew basically when I started, when I felt the time to start my dissertation came, that it would have been that moment or never. That's also the anxiety and the feeling that either it would have happened on that deadline, or I knew that the time for my dream would be gone because I've already decided at that time to move to the UK permanently. So this is my story to tell you that in that specific circumstance, I was grateful to my negative emotions, because without them, I wouldn't have been able to get out on the other side with much more resolution to achieve my dream. I was grateful to the job I was doing at the moment, because the contrast between a job I was doing that wasn't completely aligned with my inner values, to my true core identity. In the contrast, I realized that that graduation was so important to me to accomplish who I am and to give voice to another part of my path that was just unfolding at that time, and that years later, you know, made me landed on this amazing career that is now empowerment coaching. And it also taught me that it doesn't matter how strong is our internal negative voice that is telling us that we need to give up, that we're not good enough, that we're just failures, that we need to give up. There is always an opposite voice that is our authentic voice. It's our voice that stems from love, from power, from possibility. And every time we find the courage to sit down with the pain, to sit down with the broken pieces of ourselves, of our life, that tell us to give up, that dream is not for us, remember that by finding the courage to sit down with the pain is almost like getting through the dark tunnel. And guess what? On the other side, there is your true authentic voice that is exactly ready to bring you that resource, that strategy, that determination, that resolve, the same clarity that I channeled the following morning without having slept, not even a little bit. But the energy, the vibrations I was putting into that email made that professor turning her answer from a no 24 hours before into a yes. I want to work with you. Because in that moment, I was so sure about myself that I knew that even if she would have told me no, I would have made it anyway. Another answer would have come my way to make it happen, to find a way. So out of negative emotions, we feel that there is no way. But if we find the courage, and the power of self-acceptance to explore, embrace, accept, and acknowledge all layers of our pain. That night I couldn't sleep because guilt was willing to talk to me. Frustration, anger, anxiety, depression, sadness. And I paid attention to all these layers while also awakening that voice, that internal resolution that was telling me, well, please don't give up. That was my core identity that was soaking through me despite the pain and also through that pain. So my message for you today is that today it's my passion to empower individuals on the same path. It doesn't matter the traumas they have been through. It doesn't matter sometimes the abuses they experience in their life. And it doesn't matter the storytelling that they keep on telling themselves, that they are not capable, that they are not able, that they are not good enough, that they are just failures, that there's no goodness for them in life to be taken. I want to tell you that our attention only take glimpses of our reality according to the internal beliefs and emotions that we hold on within ourselves while we observe our reality. So out of negative emotions, there's no way out. But getting through the negative emotions and coming out the other side with self-love, self-acceptance, willingness, resolve, and determination, well, there is the exact moment where magic starts to happen. And that's exactly my job today, my purpose and my passion, to allow and ignite the magic into my client's soul. Because if they can find the courage to sit down with their pain and find a way to access their internal resources, then they will awaken that internal power, that authenticity to make every dream possible in their life. And they will also learn, as I said at the beginning, to start relying on themselves more, to become self-sufficient, self-reliable, free and independent in their life. And this doesn't mean that from that place, we cannot coexist with other individuals, but we become detached from the outcome. We know and we become aware that we are the only one responsible for our own happiness, and the other ones that come our way and share our life journey with us can only be a reflection of our internal happiness. I really hope with all my heart that you enjoyed this story and that brought hope, determination, and motivation to get out today and just start make something new happen in your life. Because when you make the choice that something new has to happen in your life, you will start to act differently. And new things will happen your way because of this new resolve. So I send you my love. A huge, huge hug to you all. Thank you so much for listening. And I'm sure I will be speaking to you soon. Bye.